Dear friends, welcome to the 8th volume of Pen Audiobook, the first complete audiobook in English and Malayalam. As a platform of literature at leisure, Pen Audiobook conquered the hearts and minds of all within a short span of time. Volume 8 is a unique collection of Indian voices in English. It comprises the poems of Bindu Jagadesh, Reshmi N.K., Deeba Sajid, Sai Gayatri, Sheba Sujit, and Premila Taravat, along with the travelogue of Devi Janardhanan, a talk on surveillance and security by Gokul Jain, and a memoir, Musing of a Teacher, by Usha Prabhakar. Their genuine and direct transmission of thoughts will certainly enlighten the spirits of all. Enjoy the pleasure of listening to literature. Your valuable feedbacks and feed forwards will of course add more colors to the coming episodes. Stay tuned to Pen Audiobook. Thank you.
Memory Shop. My shop is in the corner of a street, filled with multicolored glass bottles with wooden stoppers. There are bottles of all shapes and colors stored with variety of memories. My shop is in the corner of a street, filled with multicolored glass bottles with wooden stoppers. There are bottles of all shapes and colors stored with variety of memories. There are unwieldy bottles with long memories. Short and sweet memories are preserved in small perfume bottles. A whiff of these can lift your spirits. Bitter memories are pungent and are kept in bottles sealed with tight caps. They often escape, leaving a foul smell in the shop. Happy memories are boisterous and flighty. They are short in supply and are highly prized. Sad memories are plentiful. They huddle together, unwanted and unsold. Romantic memories are stored in sparkling colored bottles and are in great demand by middle-aged men. People sell me sad memories and take away happy memories in return. People sell me sad memories and take away happy memories in return. At the end of the day, when I close the shop, I am afraid I will be left alone with all the sad memories. At the end of the day, when I close the shop, I am afraid I will be left alone with all the sad memories.
Namaste, I am Devi Janardhanan. Recently, the High Court of Calcutta banned entry into the famous Durga Pandals because of COVID. I'd like to read my article about a visit we made to Calcutta during Navaratri last year. I call it a Navaratri sojourn. Exactly a year ago, 11 of us, all women, decided to visit Ma Durga in her hometown, Kolkata. We were a motley group ranging from 60 to half that age. All of us had one thing in common. We wanted to pandal hop in the city of dreams. Kolkata was everything we'd imagined. Like all cities, absolute decadence and absolute poverty existed side by side. But there was a charm about the city, a grace. The rather faded elegance of colonial rule was everywhere, in the run-down mansions that looked as if they were held up by a prayer, the palatial British buildings that housed the government and the museums, the huge Maidan that formed the fulcrum of the city, the iconic Eden Gardens. We could almost hear the maniac screams of 60,000 spectators, the tree-lined avenues, and the unhurried pace of life. We roamed around the museums and visited Fort William, now Defence Headquarters, and travelled down History Lane, felt the pain and anguish of tortured prisoners, relived the dark despair of partition, paused beside the huge cannons, and looked out to sea from the ramparts. Sun-hatted and goggled, we cruised down the Hooghly, daughter of the Ganges, feeling as if time and space had stood still. Belur Math, on the banks of the Hooghly, is the headquarters of the Ramakrishna Math, established by Swami Vivekananda and his tall and inspiring presence permeated the beautiful red buildings. We bowed in humility at the feet of our mother, the one whose kindness and mercy led thousands gently through the arch of death. Standing by the white marble tomb at mother's home, while blue and white saried sisters lit candles, our hearts were filled with a strange peace. And then there was the other mother at Kalighat, red and angry, her gruesome garland and pitcher of blood symbolizing the fight against evil in every form. But now I must go to what filled all the gaps in each day, the Ma we had come to see. She was everywhere, curly black hair flying, glittering diadem and jewelry glinting in the sun, her fiery red sari and trishul calling to us from tempos, trucks, tractors, horse and bullock carts, auto rickshaws, her cold-lined eyes laughing at our bemusement as she travelled to the hundreds of pandals where she would reign for the next 10 days. We watched in fascination as she was brought to life by the Kumartuli porters who weaved magic with mud and bamboo and fabric and colour. Kolkata thrilled at her presence, and every day was a celebration. Every evening was spent swimming in the vast crowd that headed from one pandal to another. But there was a self-imposed order in the movement. There was no shouting, no pushing and shoving usually associated with Indian crowds, and no pickpocketing either. The Kolkatan was on his best behavior. No one dared irk the mother. And the pandals, each one a triumph of art, artistry and innovation vied with each other to create masterpieces of bamboo, metal, wood, stone, thermocol, bronze, and recycled bits and pieces. Illumination was no tawdry garish accompaniment, but a symphony on its own. The designing and story of the next pandal starts as soon as the puja is over, and it is a labor of love. Each pandal had a theme, and the Mother Durga is centerpiece to a story of rebirth, mysticism, creation and timelessness, or earthly subjects like environment, the story of weaving, and the right to education. Artworks and paintings left us stupefied as we gasped at a pandal made entirely of rope, as were the gods and goddesses themselves. And the Divine Mother presided, fiery eyes flashing with anger or mellowed with kindness, the demon Mahishasura at her feet, the eternal triumph of good over evil. And outside the pandals a cacophony of traders and street stalls called to us, and who are we poor mortals to resist? Everything was delightfully cheap, and we bargain hunted till we could stand no more, and then bundled into the ubiquitous yellow ambassador taxis and journeyed home. Our cup ran over when we found the minimum taxi fare was ₹20. Ah, Calcutta, we fell in love with you right there. Finally we said adieu to Calcutta and to each other, with a resolve to holiday every year. I suspect, though, a nasty antisocial little virus heard us. Thank you.
I'm Rashmi MK, my poem Breeze. Here I am, a breeze so light, flies my might, in day or night, so soft I am. Wherever I flow, will enjoy the feather touch of my light fingers much, so soothing and slow. In the daylight, making man and maiden dream and fill their heart with love so clean, just by flying their hair so light. In the night, the candle flames dance to my rhythm at a glance, painting all with a romantic light. Try now to chain me there, in the broad daylight or in moonlit night. This floor is my fire, and I exit when you close your windows tight.
Myself, Deepa Sajid, reciting the poem Soulmate, written by me. At times murmurs, lovely and awesome, beholding dreams racing its threshold, flying sky high, making birth free. Sometimes pricks, unloyal and untidy, unjustifying thoughts, disturbing soul beauty, declining oneself, struggling to survive. Most times mesmerizes, true and faithful, thrive sparklings, grooming one's mind, rejoicing its outcome, fulfilling one's soul. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Gokul Jain. I'm currently working as a content writer for Mediacle Technologies Bangalore as a freelance content writer, reviewing casinos in Norway and UK. This podcast is about surveillance and security. The truth is that we have been touched and awed by surveillance for the past memorable years. I mean, nothing much has happened since then. The internet has been working clearly and the job seekers are clearly on their track. People can't live without this. That's clearly a fashion statement right now. It's also a punishable offense to bifurcate class and status, still I'm gonna do it. From the one-penny workers to the luxury kissers, everybody is on the net. For the past 14 years, I'm also a part of it. Whether to show that I'm a frequent visitor of Starbucks or to show that I approve or exist for some weird reason, I have also been part of the net. For some legit reasons, I too have been doing some inappropriate, illicit, unverifiable damnness for my own security and life. This is more like a personal thing which involves me and my motive of action. So keeping all these aside, what I'm saying is there is a large dark tunnel with coded and uncoded language graffitied on the top and matrix lines drawn precisely on the side walls. This is where the real surveillance occurs. It is smelly. It can be hazardous like an abandoned morgue with formaldehyde still bubbling on the vacuum jar. Not really, nobody goes to an abandoned mortuary searching for bubbling formaldehyde. This is more like peeping through the 100% cotton shades or curtains which we usually refer in India to check what is really happening with our neighbor's happy life. Yeah, it's risky, still we do it. I do it until my neighbors exhaust their happy life. Okay, let's come to Netflix. Right after they released their socio-tech documentary, The Social Dilemma, the internet just witnessed a total meltdown of confession notes. It goes like this. Dad was right. The internet wasn't that safe. I don't know what I just saw, but Netflix series Social Dilemma just made me open my eyes about the internet. Yeah, it's actually all a hoax. We all knew what was coming and we just ditched it. That's the real truth. What Jeff Orlovsky, the movie maker, did through that series was a mere ice breaking. For the newcomers and those who haven't watched The Social Dilemma, because of some binge watching on Netflix, this is the right time to watch that series. This is not a promotion. This is not at all a promotion for Social Dilemma. But in simple words, what they are saying is about surveillance. How surveillance can shapeshift from the above-mentioned investigation of the abandoned mortuary to the lively peeping on the neighbors. It's actually manipulation. How we are getting manipulated psychologically into the matrix of creative intelligence. We know what a matrix is. It's not like that movie Matrix. It's more complicated as well as deceiving. Once we fall into the matrix hole, then there won't be a coming back. I know it's creepy, but it's the truth. I can't just review the whole documentary for some follow digger. Just watch the show and enlighten yourself. 2 years back I did a blog on simulations and similar crap. That's also a forward of this blog. Thank you.
Retribution of the Crown by Sai Gayatri. Subjugation of two-legged creature, passed over decades and centuries, never obliged, but always owned the green. They wore the crown, air round and proud, inching it larger and shoving after each other's face. The melancholy of the green, loud and clear, to whom the two-legged turned mute. The bereavement of the green screamed across the world, but they all went unseen to the dollar-eyed men. Little did the two-legged know, the green is going for a revenge. They are going for a retribution, being fed up with the rejection. Suddenly, the men sorely realized that they are being encountered by the crown, the real crown which made even the powerful men scramble away into their rooms. The crown wandered around the world, round and proud. He, the crown, now hold the men at the tip of his crown, making the men realize how the couldn't be seen crown subjugate them. Feeling satisfied, the crown and the creatures of the wild smirks at the men, daring him to come out. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Usha Prabha. My teaching career spanning 41 years ended in 2016. Often, beautiful memories from the pages of my life come like shafts of light to brighten my days. Today, as I take a walk back in the dusk of my life, I would like to dip into my huge treasure chest of memories that have left indelible impressions on my mind. Priceless moments in school had made life colorful. My heart overflows with gratitude for all those who had played even a small part in molding me into the person I am today. There is no material equivalent to repay a teacher for the invaluable lessons imparted. My alma mater, the Lawrence School Lovedale in Ooty, had helped me look beyond the differences in nationality, color and culture. Interestingly, my initiation into pedagogy began just after my ISC board examination way back in 1968. I was relaxing and thoroughly enjoying my hard-earned leisure when one day I was summoned to the principal's office. He sprang a surprise on me by requesting me to step into the shoes of a primary teacher who was incapacitated for a few weeks. With trepidation, I took up the challenge. I had barely stepped out of my uniform when I was asked to don a sari and take on the role of a teacher. Surprisingly, I took to teaching as duck to water. I must say, I thoroughly enjoyed my short stint at teaching, garnering the love of little kids. Maybe the love for teaching was a legacy bequeathed to me by my father, a versatile teacher and my role model. A month later, the principal, with a broad smile, handed me an envelope saying, "Your remuneration for a work well done." My heart leapt with joy and pride. Enclosed were 5 crisp 100-rupee notes, my very first salary. The immense confidence and trust reposed in me had fanned my passion for teaching. My vocation became clear, to be a dedicated teacher. Now, as I take stock of my long years of experience, I realize how enriching and rewarding it has all been. What a rich harvest I've reaped. What an ocean of love and esteem have I been steeped in. Teaching is truly a stimulating experience. The curiosity of children often make learners out of teachers. The child is father of the man. So begins an ode by William Wordsworth. This simple line has a profound truth and a timeless appeal. Teaching is a multifaceted job which requires the teacher, like a second parent, to address the whole child, his heart and mind, As an integral part of society, the teacher is under scrutiny all the time. Much takes place within the classroom in a short span of time. Children are like sensitive tapes which pick up the feeblest vibrations and replay it later. Hence, a teacher has to be well prepared to face challenges. Global disruption caused by COVID has brought a tectonic shift in the education system. Online teaching and learning has gained traction. Technology is frog leaping in ways unfathomable a few decades back and is shaping the way people live, think and work. It is eating into their precious time, energy and mind space. Children today are tethered to the screens of their e-devices, which have practically become a part of their central nervous system. Technology is weaning them away from the realistic world, disconnecting them from society. A normal home today resembles a call center, with everyone glued to their device screens. Communication has become minimal. No doubt, technology has great potentials and is a great boon if used as a tool wisely. Internet has enabled me to keep in touch with teaching via online mode on weekends. The value of interaction with teachers and peers and the insights that emerge from learning together can never ever be replaced by technology. A teacher's role in the growth, development and blossoming of a child's character is of paramount importance. The lack of in-person connection can play havoc with a child's mind and create adults devoid of emotions. With words of encouragement, a pat and a smile, a good teacher can create wonders and see a child mature into a confident, caring adult with faith in himself and a love for life. What more can a teacher ask for? Think about it. Thank you.
Poem Beyond Silence by Sheba Sujit. Hold your tongues and listen to me. Why do you look surprised? I can still speak. Silencing can't be done by your sharp tools. Tongues have been your weapon, not ours. I know a language which is heard above all the wagging tongues, holy tongues, eloquent tongues, idle tongues, evil tongues. A language that emerges in soft murmurs, flowing slowly, winding down the hill, beating the cliffs mercilessly. Don't stand in the way, you may be uprooted. Remember one thing, language starts not from the tongue, it starts from deep within. Too deep for your sharp tools. I'm learning the art of growing a tongue there. Beware.
I'm Pramila Karavitz, going to recite my poem, Ode to Monsoon. Adorned as the queen of seasons, you reign supreme the souls of earth. O divine monsoon, as odes, epics, songs and ballads, forms of literature celebrated your glory. You are the innocence in children, aspirations in lovers' hearts, wrinkled streams on age-old faces, binds well man in the realm of nature, sliding down to the seas like a child in a theme park, sprinkled splashes to the spirits. You are the legend of time. Oh, dramatic transition. Before you drizzle down, red, orange, yellow alerts everywhere. Sweet showers transform to threads. Nature's storehouse is closed. Masked faces unveiled the truth. Thank you.
Dear friends and listeners, I am Kavita SK and we think you enjoyed the 8th edition of our audiobook very well. While listening this audiobook, it reveals a world of imagination and creativity before you. Am I right? This is our second step in the Wings of English session. Here I want to say thanks to the authors who gave their valuable literary pieces for our audiobook. We will meet soon with another wonderful piece of next audiobook. Thank you.